So the former Vice President Mike Pence trying to distance himself from his former boss with the veiled criticism of wanting to focus on the future. Not focus on the 2020 election and the lies surrounding it, but on everything else. Pence says that he sees things the same way as former President Trump. So here to discuss that and the future of the GOP, CNN political commentators Alice Stewart and former Congressman Charlie Dent. Good evening. Let's talk about the GOP, okay? Alice, listen, this is what the former vice president had to say when asked about the divide between him and his former boss. Watch.
So I don't know that our movement is that divided. I don't know that the president and I differ on issues. But we may differ on focus. I truly do believe that elections are about the future. And that it's absolutely essential at a time when so many Americans are hurting, so many families are struggling, that we don't give way to the temptation to look back.
Okay, Alice. Is he saying, except for that part where you sick that mob on me, I am still MAGA with you? Is this not hypocritical?
Look, he's 100% correct in terms of the Republican Party. Conservatives are united on policy and the policies that unite us. The separation and division is how we're going to use that moving forward and who is going to carry us forward with that. And Pence made it quite clear that they agree on policy but not on focus. Look, you can't find two more polar opposite people than Mike Pence and Donald Trump, but they came together, united to campaign and govern this country. That came to an abrupt halt on January 6th as Pence was left out of the Capitol to fight Donald Trump's war. And what we saw today clearly was Mike Pence making a very strong case for looking to the future and focusing on policies and not looking to the past. Whereas Donald Trump never once mentioned Pence today in his statements. He talked about crime, he talked about immigration, but he also did touch on his nonsense about the fact, claiming yet again that he won, which he did not, and saying that the January 6th hearings was about the Democrats' attempt to keep him away from continuing to serve the American people.
God. Okay.
That's not true. And look, they agree on policy, just how they go about leading is where the difference is.
You're very good at what you do, Alice. It sounds to me that Mike Pence was speaking out of both sides of his mouth. Charlie, I don't know, are you buying what Allison's saying?
Well, I think I have to say I disagree with my friend Alice on this point. Look, to say that Mike Pence agrees with Donald Trump on all policies, is no way to run a campaign against Donald Trump. You have to draw a hard contrast. I remember the old Mike Pence, who was a budget hawk, a free trader, a man who wanted entitlement reform, all sorts of things that Donald Trump does not want or is against in many cases. And so I'm trying to figure out where Mike Pence is now. There was the old Mike Pence, there was the Trump Mike Pence when he was vice president, and now there's the new Mike Pence. So I'm just trying to figure this out. I don't think they do agree on policy, and if Donald Trump and Mike Pence run against each other, I'm sure Trump will draw the contrast. He'll talk about how Mike Pence wants to cut Medicare. He'll say things like that. I don't think it's true, but he'll say things like that. He'll also talk about his trade differences. He wants free trade. So Trump is a protectionist. So I don't think they agree. And for Mike Pence to stand up there and say that, we agree on everything except that thing that happened on January 6th.
Right.
And even though they tried to hang me, hey, well, I'm still good with them. I mean, how does that work?
Look, it's clearly not going to be a binary choice for the GOP nomination in 2024 with Pence and Trump. We're going to have, if Trump announces, which it looks like he may, there are many people.
But Alice, don't you think it makes him seem weak? Why not stand there and say, look, I disagree with Donald Trump. Donald Trump tried to get me to defy my oath. He tried to get me to do the opposite of what the Constitution says. And as a Republican, I cannot do that. As a conservative, as a principled conservative, I can't do that. Now, we may agree on some policies, but as far as that, he is wrong. And what I did for the American people and for the country on January 6th was the right thing to do. And I will always disagree with the former president. Why can't he have the fortitude to say something like that? Because that makes him seem weak.
Look, the bottom line is what today was an opportunity for both of them to speak to the base. Clearly, Pence wants to do what he can to keep Trump's base on board. But the key is we have to grow from that. We can't just have Trump's base. We have to grow from that. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we do what we can to focus on policy and look at how we can deliver the same policies and ideas without all the chaos. There are many people out there, I can give you a long list of people that can deliver the conservative policies without the chaos. They can look at how we can bring people together, unite people without the division.
I don't disagree with you on that. But people say, well, there's a long list of conservatives who are doing this, and the only people you see pretty much, right, are the Kinsingers and the Cheneys of the world who are actually in politics now, who are standing up and saying that. I think if more people said what you said, and said it emphatically in front of cameras, I think that might actually convince some people that they actually mean it. Take a look at this poll, Charlie. This is a new CNN poll. 44% of Republican and Republican-leaning voters still want Trump to be on the 2024 GOP nominee. 55% want someone else. But here's the thing. That minority may be enough for Trump to secure the nomination. Is there any way that he is not the future of the GOP right now?
Yeah, I think there is a way, but we'd have to very much limit the GOP primary field. The more candidates who jump into the presidential primary against Donald Trump will accrue to the benefit of Donald Trump because the anti-Trump vote will be split many ways. Right now, it's suggested 44% want him, but against one or maybe two other opponents, I think somebody else could break through and defeat Donald Trump in the primary. But if we have a whole cast of characters, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 Republican candidates, Donald Trump will just love that because his base is big enough to get that plurality first across the line. And by the way, just on Mike Pence, to me, when I listened to that speech today, he sounded like Trump light.
Yes.
I mean, really,
he's not going to get anywhere being mealy-mouthed, being sort of the Trump light, the milquetoast Trump. That's never going to get him anywhere.
Take the real thing.
There are many other Republicans. We can just look at Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley. We have Ted Cruz, Asa Hutchinson, Tom Cotton, a long list of Republicans that are ready to step in there and take it to Donald Trump.
They're all Trump acolytes. I mean, you're talking, Cotton is saying, he got criticized by Kinzinger today because he's saying, I didn't watch the January 6th hearings. I mean, they're all defending Trump. They're Trump lights as well.
Don, when you run a campaign, I've run 13 campaigns. And when you're running against your opponent, you have to assume your opponent is not benign. And you have to really draw a sharp contrast and go at them aggressively. That's how you defeat them. You don't say how much you're like your opponent. Then why vote for me then? If we're the same, why would you want to vote for me? Well, you have to explain the difference. You have to explain why to fire your opponent, Trump, and then hire Mike Pence in this case.
Alice, last word quickly, please.
One last thing. In the CNN poll, I think, we're looking at the GOP numbers. I think a disturbing number out of this poll for Democrats is that 75% of Democrats said in the CNN poll that they do not want Joe Biden to be the nominee.
But that's a whole other segment. That's a segment about the Democrats.
That's a whole other segment,
we're talking
but I
about
do think
Pence
it's
and the
worth
Republicans right now. That is. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Don.